All right, today we're tackling the pharmacy. A place that can sometimes feel like it has its own secret language. Whether you call it a drugstore or a chemist, the goal is always the same, to get what you need without any confusion. So, let's break down that language together so you can walk in there feeling totally confident.
I mean, it happens to all of us, right? You step up to that counter and suddenly you're not sure what to say or what the pharmacist is saying to you. It can feel a little intimidating, but it really doesn't have to be.
So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to walk through the keywords and phrases you're most likely to hear, one by one. The goal here is to make everything super simple and clear, so by the end of this, you'll be navigating that pharmacy like an absolute pro.
Okay, so let's picture it. Our journey starts right where most visits do, at the counter. You've just been to the doctor and you're holding a little piece of paper. That piece of paper is where it all begins.
And that brings us to our first and probably most important word, prescription. You're going to hear this one a lot, so let's get crystal clear on what it means.
So a prescription is basically that official order from your doctor. Think of it like a permission slip that tells the pharmacist exactly what medicine you need and why. For certain medications, you absolutely have to have one of these.
Now, take a closer look at that prescription. You're going to see some important details on there, and one of the most common terms you'll find is milligram.
A milligram, or just mg for short, is simply how they measure the medicine. It's all about the dosage. So when you hear a doctor say something like, take 50 milligrams, this is what they're talking about.
Okay, so the pharmacist has your prescription, they know the dosage, and now they're getting your medicine ready. The first form it might come in is a capsule.
You know the ones, they're those smooth tube-shaped pills. They usually have a kind of plastic-like shell that holds the powdered medicine inside. A lot of people find these ones are a bit easier to swallow because of that smooth coating.
But what if it's not one of those? Well, the other really common form you're going to see is a tablet.
Yeah, a tablet is totally different. It's a solid pill, and it's usually pressed into that classic round, flat shape. Standard aspirin is the perfect example of a tablet.
So you can really see the difference here. On one side, you have the capsule. It's smooth, it's tube-shaped, and on the other, you've got the tablet. It's solid, round, and flat. The form is different, for sure, but the medicine inside is designed to do the exact same job.
Okay, so you have your medicine. But now comes what is maybe the most important part of this whole interaction. You have to listen very carefully to what the pharmacist tells you. The reason their advice is so important is because they want to help you avoid a really serious situation. And that brings us to this incredibly important word, overdose.
And we have to be really clear about this one. To overdose means taking more medicine than your body can safely handle. It's extremely dangerous. It can make you incredibly sick or even worse. That's why following those instructions is so important.
Now, you'll probably hear the pharmacist give you instructions that sound something like this. It sounds polite, but it's a really important piece of direction. Let's break down what's really being said here.
This is such a great example of how English works. Be sure not to is just a softer, more polite way of saying don't. It feels less like a harsh command and more like friendly advice. But trust me, the message is just as serious. It's a really common way to give a polite warning.
Of course, you're not always at the pharmacy for a big prescription. They sell tons of other stuff. So let's talk about some useful words and phrases for when you're just buying other things at the counter.
So you're walking down the aisles past the prescription counter and you see all sorts of other products. One really common thing people look for is eye drops. And yep, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a liquid medicine that you drop right into your eyes to help with things like dryness or redness. Simple as that. And here are two phrases that are just super useful to have in your back pocket. First, if you pick up an item and there's no price tag, you can just ask, "Can I get a price check?" And if you need a quick moment to find your wallet, a friendly, casual way to ask them to wait is to just say, "Hang on a sec."
Okay, we're almost at the finish line. I want to wrap up with two final tips that are absolutely essential. If you only remember two things from our chat today, make it these two.
This right here is maybe the most important distinction of all. You've got prescription medicine, which needs that doctor's note we talked about earlier, but then you have over-the-counter medicine, or OTC. This is the stuff you can just grab off the shelf yourself, like aspirin or cold medicine. Knowing which is key.
And finally, here is a super simple but super important grammar point. In English, we don't eat medicine or drink medicine. The correct verb we always use is take. You'd say, "I need to take my medicine," or "Did you take an aspirin?" It's a small thing, but it makes a huge difference in sounding natural. And there you have it. Our little tour of the pharmacy's special language is complete. It kind of makes you think, doesn't it? So many everyday places, from a coffee shop to an airport, have their own unique vocabulary. What's another place you can think of that has its own code? Thanks so much for joining me.